The PlayAction Podcast is fueled by Picasso's Pizza, where every night is pizza night.
Sean McDermott gave an ominous injury list this week for the Buffalo Bills after 2 preseason games. Which injuries should Bills fans be worried about, and which should they not so much be worried about?
We'll go through a stock up, stock down discussion on how different players are trending.
And what should fans be looking for that actually has some relevance in this final exhibition game against the Carolina Panthers? The Play Action Podcast starts now.
We've spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about injuries for the Buffalo Bills during training camp, preseason, but I think we need to talk about injuries again, Mark. They're piling up at some positions in particular, but I think we can kind of categorize them into some injuries fans should really be worried about and some they can have a slight sigh of relief on. What do you think?
Well, let me open with the obvious. Fans already know this, but it needs to be put in perspective. Matt Milano being out. 2022, full season, Matt Milano, 78 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 7 quarterback hits, 3 interceptions, 11 passes defensed, 1.5 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 touchdown. There is no way they are replacing that. So what does that mean? It means their margin for error on defense is smaller. It means the things they need to have happen have to happen. Specifically, they need Von Miller to have a big year. They need Greg Rousseau to continue his ascent, which he has showing that he could. But without Milano, they really need 12 sacks from Von Miller or 10 from Greg Rousseau, and preferably both.
It's a lot to ask, so it's putting a lot on the rest of the defense, which they know too. We talked to A.J. Epinesa the day of Matt Milano, the day his injury was announced, and he was saying how there's more pressure on the defensive line now to step up. So I think, there's no timeline on the Milano injury. There is...
December. Don't even worry about it till Christmas.
Yeah. But that is one that Bills fans definitely can worry about. Now, there's a few other injuries at linebacker, too, which makes it even tougher.
Yeah, I would say, so let's talk about what they should be worried about. So Dorian Williams steps into the Matt Milano position. The backups at linebacker are a thing to worry about. So as long as Terrell Bernard and Dorian Williams stay healthy, fine. But who they have backing up, I actually think Balin Spector, who is an okay backup to Terrell Bernard and middle linebacker, and looking at him in practice this week, I think he'll be ready for Arizona. Backing up Dorian Williams, who knows? Nick Morrow with the groin, Deion Jones. So that's a worry if Dorian Williams gets hurt. The other one I think fans should not be worried about is Mitch Trubisky, the backup quarterback. We can talk about that. I don't think they should be worried about whoever plays backup quarterback. I don't care. The worry they should have is Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
He's got a turf toe. He was favoring it this week in practice. He's not practicing this week. He is gonna have time. They're now, as we're taping this, 19 days to Arizona. But turf toes are a recurring type injury if you hurry back.
Yes.
So Curtis Samuel's status for the first 2 games, I think, is touch and go and is something to worry about.
Yeah, I think especially the way they use him in this Bills offense. They're so creative with him. We saw glimpses of that during training camp of just lining him up all over. And, it's a creative offense, but I don't think there's exactly someone who replaces Curtis Samuel in that sense.
Great, I agree with that. Going back to the quarterback. Yes, Mitch Trubisky's got a sprained knee. It's a worry. Will he be ready for week 1? I don't. On the list of things Bills fans should be worried about, don't worry about that. If Josh Allen gets hurt, they're mostly screwed, no matter what. Don't worry about it. And are they going to find? Are they going to find anybody better than Mitch Trubisky? Mitch Trubisky will get healthy. He will be the backup quarterback, I think. Kyle Allen, last year's backup, could get cut by Pittsburgh. I say just go with Trubisky. They got money invested in him. Whatever on there. But safety is another one. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Now, I think a bit of good news. Damar Hamlin has been labeled week to week by Sean McDermott, but Damar Hamlin was in full uniform yesterday with his helmet, working, I would say, vigorously in uniform with the trainers on the side. So that is a bit of while he's week to week, I think he's going to be ready for the opener.
Yeah, I think just looking at kind of his approach to it, his trajectory feels a little better.
And you talked to Cole Bishop. He was practicing.
Yes.
He was in full uniform yesterday.
He was in the red non-contact jersey, but otherwise going through everything. I think said he's feeling good. He was able to absorb a lot from watching safety from the big picture perspective while he was out. And, he acknowledged you never want to miss time, especially as a rookie. That's really hard.
Yeah.
But he feels on top of the playbook. He feels he's been able to get a good grasp of the defense from watching on the side. So now it's just about getting those physical reps.
And without Milano, having the three safety dime defense in their pocket, which they used last year after Milano got hurt, is important. And do they have? Right now they don't have. They're not playing the three safety look today.
No.
But Cam Lewis. But they could. Counting on DeMar is going to be okay. I'm confident for Arizona. So might they play Rapp, DeMar, and Cam Lewis as a three safety look? At least it's an option. Then that brings us to the other guy who has been out all year, Mike Edwards.
Yeah, I think that's a worry just of how much time he's missed altogether. Cole Bishop got injured during training camp. That was a huge bummer for him, for the team. But Mike Edwards also missed time during OTAs, first with a shoulder injury, now with a hamstring. So he's just missed so much time. And
he's had basically nothing but mental reps all year.
Right. And on a new team, so that's a worry for sure.
Yeah. And then lastly, real quick, I feel like we're going along, but at receiver, Marquez Valdez-Scantling was working vigorously on the bike, not in uniform this week. I mean, he's been labeled week to week with his next injury. I don't view this as something really to worry about. I think he'll get healthy whenever, but for the week 1 or week 2, if they got to go with Mac Hollins and Tyrell Shavers as their 4th and 5th receivers, fine. 4 weeks of training camp and 2 exhibition games are in the books for the Buffalo Bills. Starters will not be playing in the final practice game against Carolina this Saturday at Highmark Stadium. So let's take a look at a little bit of a stock up, stock down on the roster, particularly toward the back end of the roster here through 2 preseason games.
I liked what we saw from Joe Andreessen in the game against Pittsburgh. That was, for us, also just a nice story to get to write about a local kid. But I think also, he played well. He was calling the defense, which he felt comfortable in, and I think made plays too. So I would stock up there. Yeah,
I still think Balin Spector is the backup to Terrell Bernard. If I had to bet, I would still think Andreessen is a practice squad guy to open the season. We'll see about what the backups and the health at the backup to weak side linebacker is. I thought Ray Davis, the running back, I think he's had a pretty good training camp.
Yeah.
Really especially in the pass receiving game, which is really important in Joe Brady's offense. Like how smoothly of a catcher of the ball he is out of the backfield, and gets upfield quickly. He's also not been bad in pass protection drills. So I think I'm viewing him as the number 2 to James Cook, with Ty Johnson number 3. Not that distinction necessarily matters much. They'll both be spelling James Cook when necessary.
What do you think about Zach Davidson? I think.
Boy.
Yeah.
He has. I wrote a story about him a week or so ago. He is an impressive guy. He is, a great story. Only was caught 4 passes his whole high school football career.
Yeah.
Went to college as a punter. Yada yada yada. Okay, he's a better athlete than you would expect for, a guy who was a low round draft choice. He has had a good camp. He could absolutely fill in for Quentin Morris. Quentin Morris injured with a shoulder injury, and that is more of an injury than the Spector, Hamlin, Bishop injuries. So they're going to have that'll be interesting on the roster cut-down day. How long is the Quentin Morris injury? If it's just a week into the season, they could easily just go 2 tight ends, have Reggie Gilliam fill in as a tight end, play the tight end if necessary, or go with a third offensive tackle when they want bigger sets. Davidson can play, and if he gets cut, somebody should pick him up.
Yeah, I think he's really proved himself during camp, had some big plays there, and then, had the 27-yard catch against Pittsburgh. That was notable too, just continuing that trajectory.
And that's nothing that we've seen that all the time in practice. That wasn't that wasn't out of the blue. That's been happening.
Stock down.
Yeah.
Where are we going here?
Well, I mean, we've all, we've said backup linebackers. We've talked about all the safety problems. Safety in general is a stock down position entirely and a big worry. I think from a fan's perspective, Mitch Trubisky, backup quarterback, we mentioned this in the last segment, is a stock down. His pocket presence was not good in Pittsburgh. Now, the reality is what are the Bills? The Bills have a financial limits on how much they can spend on the backup quarterback.
For sure.
And how much better the bottom line is, if Josh Allen gets hurt for more than 4 weeks, they're in deep, deep trouble, just as Kansas City is, as any team with an elite quarterback. With 4 weeks, though, you like to think he can keep the ship afloat. I think Mitch Trubisky still can do that. He needs if your superstar goes down, you need the running game and the defense to play good those weeks where the backup quarterback plays. So, but nevertheless, Mitch's stock is down.
Stock down for me, I might go Tyler Bass just because of how high he set the bar before. Now, he was 3 of 3 against the Steelers from 27 yards, 26, and 31. But I don't know. I think he's been shaky during practice sometimes. And again, it's not that he is simply bad, but I think he's not the Tyler Bass he used to be. So when you're comparing him to the standard he set, that's where I'm going to maybe stock down here.
That's a good point. It's something to keep an eye on. Again, he's a high-paid kicker. He had great years in 2021 and 2022, legitimately great. But he was not. He had 5 misses last year, but there were some badly timed misses.
Yeah.
And I agree. He has not kicked as well in practice as he did last summer, but so we'll see. It's something to watch.
Now, there is still one more preseason game to go. The Bills host the Panthers this Saturday in Highmark Stadium. Mark, what are some things you're watching for, or you think fans should be watching for in this final game of the preseason?
Well, as we've said, no starters in this game, which is good. I don't think Josh Allen should have played regardless of the situation. Kyler Murray of the Cardinals, by the way, isn't playing in any preseason games either. So here's one thing that I'm really interested in. We've talked about these worry positions. The defensive line is deep.
Okay.
And they have really tough cuts to make. I think, at defensive line. You look at the defensive end, defensive tackle, you would think they're going to keep 9, 5, and 4. Could they keep 10? Yes. But with the injuries at linebacker and defensive back, I think they're probably going to need more wiggle room there.
Right.
Keep an extra safety. So 5 and 4, and the 6th defensive tackle is Casey Tuhill, 4-year NFL veteran. 5 sacks last year with Washington. A good player. He's a good NFL player. He can play. He's their sixth defensive end. He has been hurt. He's now back on the practice field.
Yep.
He's got to be worried. Then their fifth defensive tackle is Deshaun Williams, 8-year NFL veteran. Played a lot of games. Now, he's only had 1 year where he's had more than 2 sacks. He had 4.5 sacks for Denver in 2022. Played a lot for Carolina last year, full season. He's a good player. He would be a tough cut if they decide they can only keep 4 defensive tackles.
Yeah, and as a reminder, the NFL cutdown day is Tuesday following the Saturday game, so there's a lot for Brandon Beane to decide pretty quickly here. I mean, has had a lot of time to absorb it all, but this will be a big game for getting those final looks at guys. I'm interested, I think, still defensive back, just kind of seeing how that shakes out a little more at safety in particular. Just what they're going to do there, who's healthy in time, and how that'll impact how they construct this roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cam Lewis probably won't even play.
Yeah,
they can't have him getting hurt. He might have to start against Arizona, and they do have some depth at cornerback.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, Jamarcus Ingram.
Yeah.
You talked to him, right? And he has had a really good camp. They have some depth. I mean, again, they would never want to lose Taron Johnson. He's probably one of the most important players on the team. But Cam Lewis is his number 2, and Jamarcus Ingram is number 3 at the slot cornerback. But he has had a really good camp.
Yeah, they've played him a couple of places, and I think he's handled that really well.
Yes.
And I think, too, just kind of seeing, he's a good example of how they bring along players in the system, which has been so critical for this defense over the years.
Yeah, no doubt. So it's all, obviously it's not going to be a high-profile game at all. Probably a lot of running. The key will be no more injuries, but there are some key backup roles to watch in this game against Carolina Saturday. Follow BuffaloNews.com for all our coverage, and please follow and like this podcast wherever you get them.
Treat your team to the most flavorful pizza on game day at Picasso's Pizza. 4 great Western New York locations: Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell. Picasso's. We are Buffalo's Pizza since 1980. Order online today at picassospizza.net.